President Biden signing the bipartisan infrastructure bill into law. The focus in Washington now shifting to Democrats' social spending bill, which aims to fund things like child care, housing, and climate change initiatives. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she expects a vote later this week. Joining us now with more on what we can expect is New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries. He's the chairman of the House Democratic Caucus. And Hakeem, you've had your hands filled just trying to make sure that you can wrangle everybody for the votes on this. It's been a difficult progress. Why do you think we can expect a vote later this week?
Well, first of all, good morning. Great to be with you. Yesterday was a great day for the American people, for the economy, and for America's future. The bipartisan infrastructure agreement is going to create millions of good-paying jobs. It's going to fix our crumbling bridges, roads, tunnels, our airports, our mass transportation system in a way that will allow America to win the 21st century, and that's going to be critical. Moving forward, I was very pleased by President Biden's announcement that Mitch Landrieu, very accomplished public servant, is going to oversee implementation of the infrastructure agreement, and that should be tremendous for everyday Americans. In terms of the Build Back Better Act, that is also essential for us to get over the finish line because it will help create additional good-paying jobs. It's going to cut taxes for working families, and perhaps most importantly, it's going to lower costs for everyday Americans, lower the cost of housing, lower the cost of life-saving prescription drugs, lower the cost of child care, all things that are incredibly significant in the day-to-day livelihood of the American people.
You've had some holdouts, though, in your own party. They're concerned about the cost and whether it's going to be paid for and are waiting to see the CBO scoring on this. What do you expect we'll see from that scoring, and do you think you have the votes to actually proceed with this later this week?
Well, from a time frame perspective, let's see when the CBO score comes in, and then we can proceed from there. In terms of whether the votes will ultimately be in place, I'm absolutely 100% confident that that will be the case because everyone within the House Democratic Caucus understands that it is essential to bring this part of President Biden's Build Back Better agenda to life. The president promised that we were not going to go back to pre-pandemic normal. We know prior to the pandemic, half the American people reported that they couldn't afford a sudden, unexpected $400 expense. This is in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. That's unacceptable. The great American middle-class dream, which is if you work hard and play by the rules, you should be able to provide a comfortable living for yourself and for your family and retire with grace and dignity, that is under assault. And the Build Back Better agenda is going to help revive that great American middle-class dream, which at the end of the day, as you know, is good for everyone. It's good for our democracy. It certainly is good for the economy.
Congressman, we had Josh Gottheimer on yesterday. He's one of those Democratic congressional holdouts who's been a moderate. He did sound like he was willing and open to consider it, assuming the CBO score shows that it's paid for. But you have a lot of tougher critics when you get over to the Senate, especially Joe Manchin, who has said he doesn't want to put this on the fast track, thinks we should hold off, especially with what we've seen in inflation. Are you convinced that even if it passes the House, that you'll have the votes in the Senate?
That's a great question. I've been here for a little over 9 years. I've learned not to predict what may or may not happen on the other side of the Capitol over in the Senate. All we can control at this particular point in time is what moves out of the House of Representatives. We'll have great leadership from Speaker Pelosi in that regard. The president has promised two things. One, that no one who is making $400,000 or less will pay a dime more in taxes. We're going to keep that promise. He also indicated that the bill is going to be fully paid for over the 10-year period of time contemplated through this reconciliation process. We're going to make sure we keep that promise as well. And when we do both of those things, I'm confident that we'll have the 218 votes necessary to pass the Build Back Better Act in the House.